Welcome back to the legend of PikVille Heavy Industries. Today's episode is brought to you by the Nopal Growers Association, the only agricultural collective with both a 5-year sustainability plan and a marching band. The NGA, keeping our city crisp, green, and slightly confused about how many ways you can cook a cactus. All right, thank you, NGA. Hello, everyone. Let's get right into it, shall we? I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about technical stuff. Just know that I'm only able to get a limited time with the equipment needed to look into other universes and time spaces. And I'm most assuredly being steered by someone or something into what I can see and when I can see it. Why our second story is from our own time space is beyond me. That being said, it's time to delve into everyone's favorite subject, fantasy football. Stop! Please don't click that back button yet. I promise we aren't going to talk about fantasy football. Just the Legends Football League, specifically its formation and its contribution to the invention of the unclear reactor, and ultimately the establishing of PikVille Heavy Industries as a top 101 corporate entity in at least 26 of the 42 universes. It all started there in the Bonita neighborhood, on Encanto as I recall, though I never went to the front of the house because Russ lived in the studio apartment in the backyard. It was there that the three of us started working on the rules for the LFL. Who was the third person, you ask? There wasn't one. It was Russ's new little orange kitten, Cathead. Playing with the kitten while drinking beer along with partaking in other party favors is exactly how we worked out a super elaborate scoring system, the likes of which had never been seen before or after. We used every stat we could reliably count on getting. Remember, we had to use newspapers, and even more specifically, the USA Today, because it had more stats than anyone else, including individual defensive players. I won't bore you with the details. A, because it could lead to reverse engineering by a competitor. B, I had to surrender all league correspondence to corporate at around the time of that Exo Cuppertine picked up the unclear reactor from Kiwanis Park. C, I don't remember a lot of the ratios we used. It was an extensive list. Now that we have the rule sheet together, all we need are victims, team owners. Luckily, the hybrid group of Tempe High grads and Vegas guys that were enrolled at ASU and lived across the street from Greg and Dale on the east side of Daly Park was the perfect control group for testing out the Legends Football League. We had a great mix of personalities and degrees of knowledge about football, and an even wider gap in the ability to use logic where a clear set of rules are applied, or for that matter, to use logic at all. It was this group of Wayne jobs, they know who they are, that started it all. And around that time, Big O got a job managing at the Chesapeake Apartments, across the street from Valley Fair Liquors on Southern. So eventually, pretty much all of those guys lived there. The apartments, not Valley Fair Liquors. We also absorbed Tom, the maintenance man, later to become Tom from TR Paint World, into the group, along with a handful of residents that kind of came and went. Big O and Rhino had an apartment right across the hall from Tom, and they were all about 69 yards from Herman's, which was about to be shut down by the IRS, only to be resurrected as hits, only to be sold to Ted Rockwell a matter of months later. We spent many hours each weekend watching every bit of NFL football we could feast our eyes upon at Rockwell's, while drinking more beer than is seemingly possible. None of us had ever played fantasy football. In fact, Russ was the only one that had even heard of it. And there were no cell phones to get your automated score. There wasn't even a crawler showing individual stats on broadcast TV, because almost nobody cared about anything but the score. So the shit-talking was mostly done blind, because you really weren't likely to have much of an idea what your score was. And our scoring system was so elaborate that even if you had all of the stats in front of you, it may not be that clear to the naked eye. This, of course, stopped none of us from talking endless shit to each other. The fact is, most of the people from that group still get together. In the day, it was not uncommon for a group of a dozen or more to go to Vegas or San Diego for holidays or weekends, even Mexico on spring break. To this day, it's still likely to happen at least once a year. The stories from some of those trips are making me blush right now, and for the most part, they aren't even about me. This seems like a great time to get a word in from our sponsor, while I regain my composure. The Nopal Growers Association wants to remind you that true desert flavor doesn't come from some moody prickly pear that thinks it's the Beyoncé of the Salt River Basin. No, real Tempe flavor comes from the Nopal. Steady, reliable, and not prone to rolling off your cutting board like it's late for a show at the Yucca Tap Room. Whether you're grilling in a Holdeman backyard, tailgating near Sun Devil Stadium, or just trying to impress someone who claims they remember the old Mill Avenue, the NGA keeps your meals bright, local, and proudly Tempe. The Nopal Growers Association, growing the good stuff since before prickly pears got an attitude. Whoa, talk about prickly. Back to the story at hand. We kept all of our score sheets and all of our typewritten newsletters for posterity, and we're in negotiations with the Arizona Historical Society about a possible exhibit. But as I mentioned previously, we were forced to surrender all paperwork. And let me emphasize the words, forced and all. The XO never threatened, but made it very clear that we were to comply. I also was made to give all future score sheets up as well, although they no longer wanted the newsletter, said something about being over it. This all ended as soon as we switched to Yahoo Fantasy Sports, though my guess is that they were done with us. So they let us go online. No offense to Yahoo or any of the others, but comparing their rules and scoring to ours is like comparing a 6th grade flag football team to a mid-major JUCO program. Anyway, so the algorithm must have been complete, or it changed so much that they didn't need more than 38% of the data we harvested for them. Oh, and speaking of harvesting, the NGA has a delicious recipe to add to your tailgate menu. Tempe Nopal Crunch Slaw. A slaw that tastes like it was invented for a tailgate at the base of a mountain during monsoon season. Ingredients: 2 cups cooked rinsed nopalitos, 2 cups shredded green cabbage, 1 cup shredded purple cabbage, half a cup grated carrot, 1/4 cup sliced green onion, 1/4 cup chopped cilantro, 1 jalapeno minced. Optional, a tiny pinch of Tempe dust if you want it to taste like the Nairobi Trail. If you know, you know. Dressing: 3 tablespoons of lime juice, 2 tablespoons apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons mayo, or preferably crema, 1 tablespoon olive oil, 1 teaspoon honey, half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of black pepper, pinch of cumin. Instructions: mix the cabbage, carrots, onions, cilantro, and jalapeno. Add the nopalitos, the star of the show. Whisk the dressing until smooth and glossy. Pour over the slaw, mix well, and let it sit 10 minutes so the flavors settle in like a Tempe sunset. Serve on tacos, next to tacos, or in the spiritual vicinity of tacos. Tempe Notes. Perfect for tailgates, especially the ones where someone inevitably brings a cooler that hasn't worked since the Fiesta Mall era. The nopales add a citrusy snap that makes regular coleslaw feel like it's not trying hard enough. Works warm or cold, with carne asada, fish tacos, pulled pork, or just a fork, while you stand in the shade of a mesquite tree pretending it's helping. Okay, now I'm hungry, so let's get the last part rolling. Researching in the other 41, you find a great deal of similarities in most, but even more things that are dissimilar to our experiences. Let's begin with the norm. 37 of the known time spaces have or at least had a Legends Football League presence. 28 started at the same time, 1987-88 NFL season. 24 of those leagues had the same Monk Bowl champion for the first season. It wasn't me, even though I only lost one regular season game, so I'm not going to reveal who it was. 20 leagues are still playing this season. And now for some that don't jibe near as well. 3 time spaces not only didn't have an LFL, 2 didn't have an NFL. They still think a football is round. And 1 does have the NFL, but is waiting for the Phoenix Cardinals to win a Super Bowl first. 12 time spaces started their initial season later than ours, some much later. Like the time space that originated PikVille Pets that waited until Air Bud came out in 1997 to even get into sports. 10 leagues I did win, or those eyes won, the first Monk Bowl. Justice at last. 6 leagues, Leapin' Lairdog not only won the first Monk Bowl, but the first 6 in a row. 6 leagues threw their hands in the air and quit after Leapin' Lairdog won 6 Monk Bowls in a row. 17 leagues that are no longer functioning as an entity. 2 universes I still have been unable to get any info from. Spooky. And I think we're going to leave this one at that. I do want to thank all of the members, past and present, of the LFLOG. That is, of course, the Legends Football League Owners Group. Whether you were pointed out in this episode or not, you are appreciated. We couldn't have done it without you. Stay heavy, man. In a room full of talent, the contributors of Pixabay stand out from the crowd. And PikVille Heavy Industries applauds you.